All right, everyone. Having just survived karaoke night, Jeremy Ratchford, legend that he is back on the air with us for Combat Radio with an epic reintroduction, if you will, of the 1984 masterpiece Blue Thunder. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm doing great, bud.
Now, with all your run-ins with the law enforcement, this movie hits home with you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've been chased by helicopters my entire life.
They're still chasing you, my friend. But this actually is one of the more fun police pictures, especially out of that decade. I think this one is really good. It's super tight and it's really well blocked. It stretches a bit. You can make the argument, although I love watching it, people I've heard get kind of uptight with the way it's sort of plotted out with the idea of a pilot doing a ground investigation on something he witnesses and finding a mysterious Project Thor. But I love every moment of this movie. I love it every step of the way. But that's just me. Schlock. What do you think? How do you want to open this one up?
I think there's I look at it in two parts uh,
Mm-hmm.
because the pacing is incredible,
Yeah.
and uh, Schreider is just he's so internal,
Yes, he
uh,
is.
and but he has like there's a moment where he's trying to get the phone number. He's in the helicopter. He's trying to get the phone number, and the guy's giving him attitude. He goes, "Can you do that, sweetheart?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's where you reminded me of my dad. My dad had
Well,
the iconic uh, the helicopter coming up when Candy Clark is pulled over on the bridge. Like that was the ad that I remember seeing because it's that Blue Thunder comes up. So there's all those images. But then as I'm watching it, I completely forgot about it. But in the opening, they go to Encino at 10:30 at night to go watch what could be an actress. They say, I don't know. I think her credit is Nude Julie or Nude Judy.
mm,
Never done anything else. But they hover in their helicopter, like right in her backyard. And one of the neighbors eventually complains, but the helicopter pulls away. They gotta go, I hear helicopters in the
yeah,
sky. If
yeah.
there was one 30 feet above my house, it would just be bah, 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 it would just be nuts. But somehow they hang there as she does her nude yoga, which I thought was so
So
funny.
let's give everyone the landscape of this picture for those who haven't seen it. We're sorry. First of all, shame on you, but it's the fictional LAPD Astro Division. It's called the Astro Division because the LAPD, although they consulted on this, and my grandfather was part of this at the time, they didn't
Oh,
want any attachments to it given the subject matter of the film itself. But it opens with a pilot, Vietnam veteran Frank Murphy, which I understand the original draft by Dan O'Bannon of Alien fame was much more centered around Murphy as being sort of a nut job from the Vietnam War, like a taxi driver type. But
yeah.
so he, takes on a new observer, Daniel Stern, Home Alone, who we all love, Diner. And they introduce us as the audience through what they do, which is aerial surveillance for the department, right? Essentially, or support. Air support is what I think they refer to it to in the movie. And the scene that Jeremy's talking about is right out of the gate because it's the thing that actually gets them in trouble. They decide to get off their flight pattern and go see a yoga. I want to say yoga instructor, but that's never defined. But a woman doing yoga in
So
Encino, right? And then,
Daniel Stern says, is she an actress? I hope she's not working overtime tonight.
yeah,
Because it's
Daniel's
all right.
Stern gives you every possible explanation point on the scene. Like they're slave drivers, those movie people. I'll tell you, they don't care how much they work a person. And I think a lot of that's his personal venting towards what the production was probably putting him through, right? They don't care how much they work a person. It's like, oh, there she is. Whoa. And of course, what you're referring to is none of us can like not hear a chopper for a few minutes overhead and be like, what is going on out there? And this is supposed to be like something that all the pilots know about. So this neighborhood has been buzzed at rooftop level for probably months, which is hilarious. And then that introduces the concept later that I think has to be introduced when they do some surveillance that plays into the plot of the whisper mode element, which I don't even know if it's a real thing, but it certainly works in the movie. And anyway, so that happens. They fly back to base where Warren Oates, everyone's favorite police captain, Braddock, decides to reprimand him. And then this is where, the characters are defined and the movie gets going. And this is where I think some people have problems with it. No, not me. I love this movie. My wife loves this movie. I don't care how much sort of canon group mentality or canon group inspired sort of action logistics came out of this. This movie from top to bottom is super fun. Although, like I said, the idea that a guy in the air would want to come down and investigate a crime scene or have some input that the guys on the ground do not have because he's like, this isn't a rape. That's a little bit of a stretch. And the other, the other stretch, what's that?
He does at the shootout at the Circus liquor store that's ever famed.
Yeah. How many shootouts have been at Circus Liquor on film? At least 24 come to mind.
We should do a whole segment on that.
Yeah, just Circus Liquor as like this, and Circus Liquor's not even in a bad neighborhood. It's it's what I would describe it as an average neighborhood. Anyway, go ahead. It draws a lot of lead though. Circus Liquor.
He shows kind of his like he's observant, and I think Daniel even says a couple times like, "How did you even see that?" So he's viciously observant. And then when he sees the two guys in the backyard and they light him up, like, he's just uber aware of this is bullshit. This isn't rape. This isn't that. It's all like he's all suspect about it. And just by being him, that kind of guy, he was like, I'm going to go back and take a look because it's very, he shows up in the dark, hops the fence. It's just like he's just suspicious. I don't the beeper got me, and there's no payoff for it because his beeper goes off. He's like, it's like he didn't shut it off. And then when he gets back to the car, the beeper goes off again, and that's when he calls, and that sets the whole
so
under.
The beeper was fun to see because it's just that retro piece of technology that we like to forget about that certainly existed in the day and was the way to get him back on the scene. Yeah, and there's also the implication or the implementation rather of a telephone booth. Awesome. And I love that he's like, I just want you to know, Frank, the next time I'm suspended, so is my fucking beeper. And Warren Oates could probably lecture him on LAPD policy at that point, but he's just instead takes the Warren Oates road of, do you feel better? Then get your ass back here. Yeah. And then that's where they meet the feds, who are the real villains in this. Perfectly played, by the way. They couldn't have found two more perfect guys who underplay it in sort of evil ways. Now, if you cast that, if you don't cast that properly, you get the wrong actor transmitting their intentions. But those two guys play it really, really well, I think. And this is where I think you get stretch number 2, which, although, again, I don't mind it. So back off me, film bros, where the idea that a pilot who's on psych evaluation would be tagged for some sort of government project over Los Angeles ain't happening, but who cares? It like fits into the movie so perfect. You're just like, whatever the fuck, go with it.
On that note, too, because we meet his partner who has decided not to fly with him anymore. He's going to fly during the day and not at night, not to be with him because
Montoya.
So something that happened 2 weeks prior, but we never ever get told what happened. So we just like, yeah, that stunt you pulled. What was it that made his partner turn on him? And then he gets the psych eval. It's left to your imagination because he doesn't play. The only thing he plays is the one time in the helicopter where he's like, he has the Nam flashback and freezes, and Daniel says, "Hey, you okay?" It's like, yeah.
So obviously Santa Clarita doubles as Vietnam in the movie. I don't have a problem with it. It's also where they do the targeting weapons range, and I wonder if any weapons contractors or defense contractors were in on this. But to your point, so Jerry Zeismer was the AD on this on the ground. I think there was a different director for the aerial sequences, which, by the way, are fantastic. But Zeismer, who I met when I was at Warner Brothers, wrote a great book called Ready When You Are. Spielberg, Mr. Spielberg, Coppola, and Crow, or It's the names of three of his favorite directors he worked. It's something titled like that. But he had actually said in a conversation about this that there's a scene cut out of the movie. This movie was much longer. It was like another 30 minutes. But the editors just did a pretty efficient tomahawk job to stitch it all up. And it's pretty tight. But there's a scene he said is cut out with a psychologist who breaks down part of what his problems are. Because you're right, they kind of hop over it. Like he's Warren Oates, as the captain, cites, "Hey, buddy, you're after this thing you pulled last week and your partner's off. Why don't you, they want to see you for a psych evaluation." And then they never go to it. But he does reference it, right? So that scene was, according to Zeismer, there was a scene there that was taken out that probably gives you a little definition of what's going on. But you're right. It's unlikely he'd be tapped for some sort of secret government project using technology that's,
But
highly under wraps, but whatever.
top on the edge, but he's also the best pilot they've got.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's made clear too. He's
That was
looped
the
it.
other one
He's
that showed
looped a
up.
chopper. He's looped a chopper.
He's looped the chopper.
Which, why would you do that? Why would you even try to do that? Except that it's cool to say that you did it, right?
Said,
Is that the argument?
um,
Maybe in a dogfight of some sort? I don't know, whatever, but who cares? So he's looped a chopper, but continue.
That's the other one. Um,
What's
but
that?
now we're kind of entering into the land. So we go to the demonstration of Blue Thunder where we meet Malcolm McDowell, who does not give a fuck about being liked in this
Yeah.
movie. Like he just drips asshole from the very beginning, and then it's in the flashback. You go, yep, he's the guy that threw the guy out of the helicopter and gave himself accommodations. But it's a very brave and unique choice for an actor to go, I don't give a fuck if anyone likes me in the slightest.
Right. And it shows you the caliber of talent he actually is, because in this day and age, the actor could easily go back and infuse, hey, I need a backstory that shows why I'm like this.
Yep.
And something relatable. But it's actually refreshing when people come off and say, I don't care if the audience doesn't. That's my job, is to heal it. Right. I'm going to go in there and everyone's going to be rooting for my death. So when we deliver it, when I set myself up for it, I give you the best moment in the movie, which he does do. And he's so good in this. And this is a guy you've worked with, right? There's a couple of actors in this that have been on the Jeremy Ratchford machine.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the other one, Anthony James.
Yeah. Now, so we should point out that he's like the shadow villain in this. He's kind of like the heavy.
Well, and
on the ground.
And he's just built in sinister.
Yeah.
I would love to see him do something where he's like a single dad or something where he's coaching baseball, because he's always played sinister. He just has that look.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, he has that look, and that look is undoubtedly somewhat what he owes his career to, but he delivers in this. He's smooth. He's really smooth with what he does. And this is the other thing too, right? When they're on the opening surveillance that opens the movie up, they spot his car on a stakeout, a car which is so obviously not Beverly Hills. Like, never mind the fact, excuse me, if we're going to actually attack a city council member or whoever this politician is,
at one point, it was just two kids making out, and he goes, no, you don't go to a cul-de-sac in Brentwood to make out. And
so, yeah. So, all right. So to that point, right. And this, Reiser did a rewrite on this. It was one of Clint Eastwood guys, but Jacoby wrote most of this script. And I don't know if that moment's his, but I don't know how you feel about this as an actor, but as a guy who sat behind the production desk, I hate those moments that are so obviously meant to either explain something to the audience or show how savvy or something's going on, and have one character that would traditionally in real life be in position to recognize what's going on not know. Like, he's the ignorant, like the captain is like, oh, they're making out. Like, the captain would also probably say, realistically, That's not your department. There's an investigation and they'll stack it up. You get back to your vacation, which you're on now, mandatory for 2 weeks until I paid you, right? And it's kind of funny, but he's like, no, no, no. He's arguing like the pilot knows and the captain doesn't know. And that's just one of those stereotypical film moments that doesn't train wreck it for me, but I always get kind of fatigued in scenes like that. We're like, here we go. One guy knows and the audience knows too, or suspects, but the guy in the driver's seat doesn't know. And not because he's like a Lieutenant Wolf platoon type who doesn't have the experience to know, but because it's just easier to explain it if he doesn't know. Yet he's like the senior officer who points out he's got 20 years experience while Lyman Good is having his fuzzicles, right? So it's like,
I love
yeah.
that he was watching Bugs Bunny and gnawing on him.
Yeah.
And
It
no
feels
one's a cocksucker like him.
no.
There's one, he just kind of goes, you cocksucker. And he's so funny, man.
Oates was the
As I
master of
said,
that.
my introduction to Warren Oates was Stripes, because
Yeah.
his career was a lot earlier than my like I know that I've seen him in westerns before, but Stripes was the big one, and it's so funny to see him in this because, as you pointed out, like this was right before he died. This is after Stripes, but he kind of landed in that character of sort of like off his nails. He's
Yeah.
so funny.
His delivery is so righteous and so perfect to the point
As he say, yeah,
that,
he's
and
got
he was,
personality with a dipstick.
yeah, it's just the whole thing where, and the movie's dedicated to him. He died when it went into post, but that whole bit where he's like, good God, do you think I don't know about that thing in Encino or whatever? And he's like, he goes, what's the line? He's like, for God's sake, Frank, that garbled communication shit went out 2 weeks after Marconi invented the fucking thing. Now, do you think that line with the fudgicle is a Warren Oates ad lib?
I think it's got to be because it's so not normal and
Right.
not in the script. Like I can say them scripting cocksucker,
Yeah.
and I think you could almost feel it in that room when he goes, "You were watching Bugs Bunny." Like it's the way he says Bugs Bunny is with like just yeah, you were watching Bugs Bunny and no, fudge stick.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's
So
fucking hilarious.
that line where he opens it up and he's like, and like Lyman Good tries to explain that he's the reason they went off course to look at this yoga instructor, which is, it's again, that's there for like the 1984 surveillance angle to get you concerned about in the audience because there are obviously other things people can be doing. But he flies out there and he's trying to explain. He's like, that was me, sir. And he's just like, damn it, Lyman Good, you're supposed to be fucking stupid.
Yeah,
Don't abuse the privilege.
yeah, don't abuse the privilege.
Hey, I'm Alex from Quiet Riot.
I'm Dizzy from Guns N' Roses.
I'm Johnny from Typo Negative. I'm Mike from Wasp.
Help us cure NMOSD and,
And
with
with
it,
it,
cancer.
Go to Guthrie Jackson Foundation
And
donate
donate today.
now.
Yeah, now I've been in this in the real station, the real helipad for this, and they did a brilliant job with the production design of it. I don't even think, I mean, I was very young when this came out. I'm not even sure if it was even operational when they did the film, but it is fantastic to see that they got in the tower and they had the helicopters lifting off with the controllers and the radio RTOs inside, like communicating like their silhouettes against the sunset. Like they really block this movie really well. I thought there's some real technical talent on this.
And there's some sorry, just to go on what came up in my head though, the use of the vehicles.
Yeah.
You've got him in the Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am. They brought that back, 1989 Trans Am. Looks gorgeous. And they've got that whole going in and out of the pylon.
I was going to say, complete lack of respect in garage etiquette.
Yeah. Well, when he comes flying out of that garage, if there was anyone there, they'd be dead.
Yeah.
And then you got Malcolm in the Corvette, and all of a sudden that Corvette just looks pompous.
Yeah.
And you got Candy Clark in, what was that, a Vega?
Yeah.
This was another one where you kind of go, what cut to, they're in her car, Strider's in the back, in the middle, talking because they're going to the horse rides over at Griffith Park. She misses the turnoff and almost kills people to turn around and go back against traffic, and you're gonna go, which then sets up for,
Yeah.
hey, Candy, can you go to the dumpster at the drive-in and get the stuff? And she can drive you. Now you go, well, she can drive like a maniac, so she can get there. Cut, but on the just to trigger or go a little further on that. This was another element where I went, what the fuck are you thinking? He gets her to the drive-in. She's got to go into the dumpster to find a tape, and he hovers above it, causing everything to go fucking crazy. And I
Right.
go, why are you making her job that? Because then when the cops show up, he goes over, does the same thing to them, but the wind disorients them. That was one weird little bit. I don't know why, because it didn't have to. He could have been high above. It could have been more tension. The all the air going on distracted me from what she had to do.
So director's call on that, right? He probably felt for more realism, like have it blow out of control like a blizzard. Every move in this movie is telegraphed, and I don't even care because they even do that dusting earlier in the circus liquor. Like they do that, they set her up for being a stunt driver later, and I'm fine with all of it. And I love, and so much so that when I was at Warner Brothers, I put together a film that was on like the Tet Offensive in Vietnam, and there was a scene where like a helicopter had to cover from the air a truck that was getting ready to run a blockade, trying to run through a French colonial town under fire. And I love that setup. The idea that you cover something from the air with high caliber weapons makes it even better, right? Where it's just like boom, boom, boom. And the cops do everything they can do in 1984 Los Angeles to try to hem her in. And they just get ripped apart, including that great scene you're talking about on the bridge, which, of course, they would know, they would detect, they would hear something's closing in. But no, it's like, boom. It's like, and they knew when they shot it, they knew when they undoubtedly boarded that part of it, but they knew when they did it that was going to be in the trailer. And that was exactly what they knew that was going to be in the Siskel and Ebert, the Siskel and Ebert clip. So they
And then it goes
got
off.
it absolutely right.
The second they get distracted by the chopper, she bolts.
Yeah.
She takes off and they run. I love them putting their guns back in their holsters because you just know it's not normal. But they get into their cop car and he chops it in half, and that cop car goes on for 100 yards. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Cop car.
The,
Must have been front wheel drive.
oh no, but it's funny. Exactly. Like, right. It doesn't make any sense in the wrench wars, like Mental Collective, but man,
But I loved it. I loved it.
when that rotary cannon rips that car in half, undoubtedly the audience was going nuts at that.
And there's
at
the
that moment.
moments where when Roy's in Blue Thunder and they want to take him out, and his buddies come up, and cool as a cucumber, he goes, "Oh, I'm going to shoot out that part of your helicopter,
Yeah.
that, and then I'm going to do this." This is the escalation, right? Like, talk about an ending. They got his police buddies in their helicopters. He takes them out. Then they say, "We've got F-14s or F-16s, whatever they were." He takes them on.
Yeah.
All above Los Angeles, like the damage that could have caused anything, and the damage that was caused. And then at last, we get Malcolm in the little green helicopter. I don't know why nothing else penetrated Blue Thunder but his gun. Shot Roy in the shoulder.
So it's the perfect 3-phase escalation script scenario, right? Phase 1 is friendly to hostile, show one level of intensity. Then the caliber goes up when you got something you don't think you're going to lose to. And then boom, the F-16s come in, which, by the way, that's brilliant miniature work when they blow the skyscraper apart. And I love when they strike Little Tokyo too, and all the barbecue chickens go all over the fucking neighborhood.
That was
That's-
another one I thought, how did the guys inside the barbecue joint know they had to get the fuck out of there?
Right. Well, it's one of those A-team moments where they're like, we better clear this of civilian casualties. So just have them look up, hear it, and run. But
And
and then there's
The
What's
the
that?
second helicopter, the second police helicopter, that
Yeah.
he goes under under LA River at the bridges,
Mhm.
and he manages to get them to crash. And they had two guys hanging out on either side shooting, right? When that copter crashes on its side, both heads in the back pop up to let you know the guy
Yeah.
on the other side didn't get crushed. Like it's just like so. And again, it just proves that Roy, he's not trying to kill them.
Right.
They are putting themselves in danger by not letting him survive.
So that character earlier on in the movie helps him break the case. It's a case he shouldn't be on and isn't assigned, but he's on it because he's curious or he suspects there's more to it. And of course, it's tied to the very top secret job he's been tapped to work on, which is the Blue Thunder element, right? So this guy actually translates a letter or a piece of paper or a document that was left at the crime scene stuck in a tree that he goes back and gets. And that's where I think you're making kind of a stretch, but I understand that you need to connect the dots for all this. I don't know how much of the ground game you need in the movie. I think you could have made the point that this is like an Orwellian 1984 type of surveillance machine that is going to help, if ever the order is issued, control society, whether
Well,
for right or wrong, right? That's
think
the
of this-
argument.
Think of this sequence too. When he and Daniel get in Blue Thunder for the first time,
Yeah.
all the information that it's a brilliant move, right? He's like, oh, it can do this, it can do this, it can do anything but make you breakfast.
Yeah.
So look, I put my name in, and it's like, this is what comes up: not married, never arrested. He goes, put my name in. It's like, can't find your file, and you see that Roy
Yeah.
Scheider-
File under repair.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell? And then they fly over, and they get the close up of the boobs, which was just gratuitous, of the hooker negotiating with the guy, and then they go on, and then they find a cop having an affair with his woman, and you get the thermal imaging,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're coming back, and all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, I see asshole. Hey, put him in." They follow the Corvette, and then it's that great sequence where they go into silent mode. They're outside the window. You got the thermal images, and you hear the conversation about, we got to get rid of Murphy, and it's great because it's that thermal image. But when he comes up and moves that curtain, and there's the helicopter just sitting there. From that
Yeah.
point on, this movie takes off.
Fast. Yeah. Fast.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It winds into such a high caliber third act. It's just an absolute blast. And that little thing that Malcolm McDowell does to just make you hate him even more when he's in the parking garage. He's like, oh, what's that I hear? Threats? Huh? Like he's just primping himself while he like bureaucrats this guy to death. It's just, and the way they set him up, like there's previous tension from the war. Also pretty smart. I really like that approach. But I'm like wondering, do you need the ground aspects of this for what they're trying to say? I guess and it doesn't matter. It's there and it doesn't bother me that it's there. But I'm just saying, like, do you need the McNeely murder / rape or whatever it was, or are the feds and finding out what this machine could be used for, or what its actual intentions become? I don't know. Is that enough? Is that enough for the audience? And I think it actually kind of, for me, it's enjoyable both ways. It's enjoyable the way they did it, and it probably would have worked the other way as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It brings up sort of one of those things too. After we did Magnum Force, I went to the next couple Dirty
Yeah.
Herrings, and I can tell you the moment from The Enforcer. Go ahead, make my day, right?
Mhm.
I could not tell you what the A plot of that movie. I was watching it going, I don't remember any of this shit. All I remember are the Dirty Harry bits where he's
Yeah.
dirty and does something and can say at the end of it, marvelous, or something to that effect. But there was a whole A plot of backwoods people trying to steal a bunch of arms, and it was just like, who cares? And
Yeah.
that's sort of like that whole other the finding out why that woman was murder raped without being murder raped. That was the other great line. Charlie goes, rapists don't come in twos or something like that. It was like everything about that crime scene. He went, this is all bullshit. And I saw it from the air. It was not that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, that's scenes like that tend to make me a little personally tired. Other people have said they love that kind of thing in a movie, but I'm like, everyone, if there's something suspicious, keep in mind, we had talked before about my grandfather was chief of police, being in on the technical side of this, and so was another police legend, Mike Godward, who told me, by the way, that bulletproof glass can't be shaped. It's panels. You can't bend it, move it. I mean, maybe you can now, but in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, that's why the Blue Thunder cockpit is shaped the way it is, because it's bulletproof until Malcolm McDowell gets in the air and then he blows it apart practically. But it's interesting. So these technical advisors, from what I have been able to deduce, and I'm no Sherlock Holmes, is if something's suspicious to one, it's usually suspicious to everyone with experience to a degree, where they might look into it, except for one guy saying, hey, this is the thing. And everyone's like, whatever. A lot of times it's, anyway, this is a small point though, because I don't think this robs the movie of any firepower. It's just fun to talk about.
I tell you, the other, just sort of a little sidetrack here.
And we should have done this interview from Circus Liquor. We should have done this show from Circus Liquor. We should have just done it in the parking lot of Circus Liquor.
In the parking lot, yeah. I can only imagine watching the chase scene with Malcolm and Roy. What was that like in downtown Los Angeles? Helicopters in between buildings, 10 feet off the ground, fire, da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, imagine doing that now.
No, it's incredible. The stunt pilots are the stars of this movie, right? And this opens up the question that you and I always harp on. Why is there not an Academy Award category for these guys?
Yep.
They are the whole movie. In this particular case, they are everything you are paying to see.
Yep.
Like that. And also, I'm not gonna dismiss the camera ships that caught it too. I mean, they're in the air too, and they've got to be in position to get these guys doing their thing. So it's complete team effort, and it's frustrating that these guys still go unrecognized. I mean, I don't give a fuck about a trophy anyway, but for those who do, these guys should get one. If you're gonna do an award ceremony for the motion picture industry, they should be included, right? Brilliant, especially when they get low to the ground.
Well,
I mean,
and to the point, the two guys that are hanging off that following helicopter shooting at Roy, they're hanging and shooting and going underneath bridges and shit like that. Like that's just not, Tuesday.
No, not for you and me. It's not.
Nope.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Combat Radio.
Your road to redemption is paved with tombstones. No quarter, kill all masters. Go to noquarterkillallmasters.com. Rated R.